Get the recording. All right, welcome everyone. I'm gonna kill the music and stop the screen share so you can see our faces. Tim, I'm gonna spotlight you and I to start. So bear with me everyone as I get our spotlight game on here. Okay, welcome everyone. Today is Thursday, November 11th. I'm Joel, joined by my colleague, Tim Thompson. Tim, what do we do here in the weekly briefing? I'll let you tell everyone what it is we do.
Yeah, this is the weekly conversation we have where we find issues that we believe our community is talking about, dialogue they're having, things that we think we should bring to the forefront, and really just have an open forum, have a conversation and express the thoughts and concerns. We do want to hear from people if they are in this crowd right now. We'd love to have some insight, but also obviously carry the conversation over to RevCommunity. There's so many good conversations that happen after these talks that we do. We see a lot of activity over there. So please feel free to also just keep it going and have share some of your insights and thoughts on the platform as well.
So the topic today is, we're calling it the talent crunch. And I'll just give everyone here a quick backstory. I want to try and get as many voices in this call today. So this is not going to be me and Tim yammering on for 30 minutes. So you came to a good show today. The background for this is that for the past few months, I'll say this, maybe even going back almost a year, in RevThink, we've noticed a lot of our clients, a lot of studios and production companies quickly rebounded after the pandemic craziness hit everyone. And some of these companies were having record quarters in the first quarter of this year. And that was great. Everyone said, hey, we're so happy to be busy, right, Tim? Everyone said, wow, record quarter, who would have thunk? But that pace has not really slowed. And now we're starting to see this increasing, hey, I'm having trouble. Can you give me some freelancers? I'm looking to hire a producer. I've been trying to hire an art director for a year. I can't find anyone. And this demand, or potential crisis, if we want to use that word, seems to be building. It doesn't seem to be abating. If anything, it's getting a little worse and a little worse. And in just the past 2 weeks, I think I've talked to 10 owners who, in a nutshell, in one way or another, said, I'm stuck. I can't get the work done. I can't deliver on my promises. I can't accept this project from this client because I can't get the help I need. So we said, let's start a conversation. So Tim, this is really the beginning of a conversation. And as I mentioned, we want to get everyone else here involved to hear from them and hear about the problems and hopefully start talking even about solutions.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Like, we hear in the mainstream media just the word of supply chain and supply chain issues. In our field, obviously, the supply chain is the talent-based folks, opportunities that we are given, and then how we execute those creative opportunities. So we're kind of dealing with our own situation of supply chain, and maybe the right word is tension. Just the pressure, the volume, the weight that is being put in certain segments of the industry, and therefore on certain people, that some of that tension is creating a greater demand in some areas. And I was sharing with you, Joel, earlier, just some of that tension is breaking folks, and to have some of your leadership having to take mental breaks and long-term breaks and forced leave breaks in order to just recoup. And so that stress that's coming from that tension is having its effect in many different areas. As a business owner, obviously, it's concerning because while you once had confidence that your strong team and your ability to deliver, because you knew where the resources were, you understood the rates, there was kind of a set system for you. Those ideas and some of those resources are changing and shifting on you. So we have a lot to deal with and a lot to process, and kind of new ways of thinking about how to deal with those resources and meet those needs.
So let's start here. Let's start the conversation with, is this indeed a problem? I think I know it is, but I would love to hear from people here. And we can simply just start with asking the question, how many of you are struggling with finding the talent you need? And what is your perspective on that? Mark, can I maybe tap you for a quick minute? I know you needed to bounce. I was going to drag him in first because, well, Mark, you have a unique perspective because you manage tribes, right, of freelancers. And you had something to share earlier. Do you mind maybe referencing that, or at least giving us the highlight version of it?
Yeah, sure. Just through my various platforms and communities that I'm involved in, definitely after COVID, I feel like there is a bit of I don't know what the right word may be, but like an uprising, or almost like a as a freelance artist, like knowing their value now, because for so long, people I knew were like working long days, long hours, because they wanted to work for these shops. They wanted to be on these projects. And now everyone's in such demand. They're just like, no, I'm not going to work these long hours. No, I'm not going to like, they're actually stepping up and putting their foot down. And I think you're even seeing that in live production with, you know, some of the union stuff and all that. But it's just been a really interesting kind of like dynamic shift of artists like being kind of under these studios and like wanting to work. And now these studios wanting the artists because they can't find the talent. So the artists are finally being like, hang on a sec, like 12-hour days are no, I don't want to do that anymore. And I now have kind of the power in the I guess I don't know if power is the right word, but like
control.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Say no.
Yeah,
And I think that's helping a lot of the people I know that we're going through some mental health things. We're going through like a bunch of stuff, and just that realization of like, no, I don't need to be kind of endowed to this studio or company or production company, whatever it is. Yeah. So it's been an interesting thing to see in the last year or so, how many freelancers are really just kind of putting their foot down.
Let me share this quote I saw that kind of got my attention. This is from the Harvard Gazette just last month, saying we'll see a lot of anecdotal and survey data on this, and we've really met a once in a generation, take this job and shove it moment. And I thought, okay, that kind of got my attention. And that's a little bit of what I'm hearing you share, Mark. Let me do this. Let me. I'm going to turn off the spotlight so we can see everybody's faces here. So bear with me while I get the spotlight off. Tim, we love you, but we're taking away the spotlight.
No worries.
All right.
Matt has his hand raised too.
Yeah. So let's start here. And Matt, I want to ask this question, and maybe you can jump in and talk about it. Who here is having a struggle getting talent? I know it's probably the majority of people here, but I would just love to hear, like, is this struggle real? And what do you think is at the root of it? And then, of course, we can hopefully start talking about what to do about it, but that might be for another session. Matthew, you have a question or comment? Oh, sorry, I think you got muted. Still can't hear you, Matthew.
It's probably Bluetooth. Bluetooth seems to be happening to do in this breakage.
All right, now he's back. There we go. No, for some reason can't hear you, Matt. Well, let me just ask the question: Who else here wants to jump in and share what their take on this is, and is it indeed a struggle for you? Justin, I'd love to hear from you, Mister. How are you, man?
Hey, good.
Hey.
How are you?
Because I know your model is predicated on using a lot of freelance talent. What's your take? What are you seeing?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's definitely tough out there, I think, to find good talent. It's not hard to find a freelancer, but to find, really good talent, it's tough. And I think what we're seeing a lot of is just sort of astronomical rates on people who just really don't deserve it, right? So we're talking about like, oh, I know I'm in high demand. My rate's now $1,500 a day, and I'm a junior to mid-level After Effects artist. Right. So you're kind of having to like try people out that you normally wouldn't, and you're assuming that maybe the work is great because of their website. You're just making quick decisions, and it's coming back to bite you a little bit. But it's definitely a learning curve. That's for sure.
Matthew, are you back with us?
I am. So what I'd say is I run first of all, I had a studio for 7 years. So I really understand the pressure of trying to get people you can't afford which is terrible pressure. So that hard. But I also worked freelance for like 13 years. So I think in Australia, I run a jobs board, and I've had the most jobs I've ever had by, say, 70% more than ever before over the last 4 years. And I hear everybody's flat out, and it's sort of a double-edged sword. It's sort of now the studios need to raise their rates because we've got shortages, which is a challenge, will be a challenge for them. And the artists, they're not talking that much about raising their rates, but they're talking more about working less. And yes, I think they will think about raising their rates as well. So I feel like it's a great opportunity in one sense, is that rates have stagnated in my eyes from about the early 2000s in Australia up until now. And there's an opportunity for both studios and artists to rise rates. It's a bitter pill to take to try to do it.
Yeah,
that's a comment.
I appreciate you sharing the stats about your job board, because that's a great indicator. You know, we should take a look at some of the other job boards out there and just see if that pattern is similar on those as well, because a 70% increase in job postings. I'll just say this, I know of these 10 or so clients that I'm helping, they've already done the post the job on LinkedIn. They've already done the post the thing on Motionographer. They've already put it up on Craigslist. That was like, we tried that 9 months ago. Now what? And they're really at a loss for how to find the talent, and starting to ask, does the talent even exist? Like, is there just a shortage? And the Great Resignation, maybe some of these people that used to be out there are just, they went to do something else, or they retired. I don't know. Mark, do you have any more thoughts on that from your perspective?
Yeah, I was just about to put in the chat. Honestly, feel free, hit me up. I'm very networked with a lot of freelancers, and happy to make those connections. But yeah, I mean, there's just jobs left and right. And again, the freelancer, I can be presented with 3 jobs and pick the one that I want to work on.
Right. Well, it's interesting because, and Tim, I haven't shared this with you yet, but one of our clients was saying, hey, could we potentially create a space in RevCommunity called Cry for Help? Was his name for it.
I love it. So it's interesting because,
well, let me mention this one detail, because he said it would be where I would ask other companies for their help. Not, do you know any freelancers that I can borrow from you? That's obviously step one. But the idea of, I have so many projects coming in. Are there other shops out there that can help me take down these projects? And I thought that might be interesting.
Yeah, a great idea, because it's, if there is like a shared burden, right? Many hands make the light load. So there's a shared burden, that would be a great way to collaborate. I was kind of thinking, like, we've seen raises in rates before, and I think most of business owners kind of know when someone was getting to the edge of the opportunity, when they were going to give them a natural raise, or kind of like worked with them long enough to know that it was time to retain that talent and put them in a comfortable position. I think what we're seeing here is the synchronization of raised rates. So it's an automatic inflation that we're all feeling. And to Justin's point, to some degree, the ability to naturally grow into, organically grow into a position, people are now just infusing a certain rate on something, regardless of the ability to perform a task possibly. And then clearly the conversion of that into setting up prices with you and your clients that are matching that same inflated rate that you're paying. So we kind of have to carry that burden, eat it in one area, or figure out how to pass it on to our clients in another. But of course, our clients are the ones who are asking us and keep giving us more and more work. So the demand for them is getting higher. And we're in an equal position that Mark's saying, where the demand is high enough and there's enough projects out there that maybe if the client doesn't give us the right price, we can pass on that and go get the projects to do.
Cherish, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I think when you've been in been in business long enough, or in the industry long enough, you learn particular things that you need to take care of. You need to take care of taxes. You need to take care of your software. You've got to make sure that you're using licensed equipment. You got to, deal with workers' comp. And for a time there was just a whole glut of people who were like, I'm just going to go out and be a freelancer, and it's going to be great. And then, 4 years later, after not filing income tax and realizing, that there's this massive penalty for not doing that at an appropriate time, you start to realize like, wow, there's really a lot of expenses in being a freelancer. I better raise my rates to make sure that I can cover everything that I don't know about right now, because nobody else is going to watch out for me. I don't have an employer that's going to watch out for me. I don't have a business partner that's going to watch out for me. I need to watch out for myself. And I think we're kind of seeing that sort of, anger sort of spilling over in rates, and people just not willing to take on positions that aren't going to pay well and have flexibility. In my line of work, I'm trying to find a high-level security person for some other contract, and I'll tell you, if I have seen 5 resumes in a month, it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable,
Yeah,
so.
I was speaking with a friend of mine who is a high-level counsel at 3M, maybe two levels below the CEO. And I said, is this word crisis too extreme? Like the war on talent, is this extremist language? And he said, no, that's exactly what we're facing. And we have whatever, 50,000 employees, right? Multinational, not necessarily applicable to our industry, but I thought it was interesting that he flatly said, it's absolutely a crisis and we are totally in the middle of trying to figure it out, which I thought was an interesting anecdote. I'm curious, I wish Rob Wagner could have been able to hang out a little bit longer, because I know one thing that he would have told us is, hey, 5-10 years ago, in order for me to start working remotely, I had to develop a very deep bench. So, right, this is not exactly constructive for those of us that are saying, yeah, but what do I do right now? But maybe there's this thought of, well, what's the old parable, Tim, about the planting a tree, the Chinese parable?
The best time to plant oak trees 100 years ago. The second best time is today, right? That's just the way it works.
So, not necessarily constructive to today, but still, it does reveal a principle that many, like you said, Cherish, most business owners learned to take care of this area, this area, this area. And I think we maybe took talent for granted, perhaps. But Tim, what do you think?
Yeah, what to say, like there are probably some long-term investments, and we've seen outsourcing. Lydia's on here too with the outsourcers stuff that she does in Eastern Europe. So there are people that have realized this and kind of captured a greater talent base or a wider talent base than just the local crew over the years. And I have a feeling some of the tension that we're seeing now is going to lead to more creative and clever ways of solving this problem. One thing we might do is just gain efficiencies on the projects we have going on. If we can't find the talent and stuff to deliver, it's going to change the way we produce and the way we deliver and what those deliverables are. You can see advances in technology, but people are going to, the necessity of the mother of innovation, we're going to push something through here, and there's going to be a breaking point that will be a new evolution. So some of us might be sitting on a huge opportunity. It's interesting. Like the stress part of it, I don't want to wish that on anyone, but the opportunity part of it, if we can get past that and realize how that entrepreneurial thing works, the needs plus resources equal solution formula, you can understand the demand. You just can't sell the same results without the old resources available to you. So needs plus your current resources will give you different results. And I think that's how we have to understand and make promises on our projects. I saw Robin raise her hand earlier too.
Yeah, jump in here, Robin. What do you have?
Yeah, I just wanted to just mention one thing, and I don't know if you guys are seeing this, especially with rates, is that clients are now willing to pay a lot of money for COVID, right? Like they are investing tens of thousands of dollars in production for COVID testing or whatever it might be. And I think that as freelancers or people that are talented out there, they're seeing this and they're like, wait a second, I'm being told that I can't get my rate, but yet you're willing to throw a bunch of money that you say you don't have towards these other things. And I'm not suggesting that COVID protocols aren't really important, but what I'm saying is all of a sudden, all these clients that never had any budget for anything have found these big, deep pockets and are not putting that toward the talent, resources.
Yeah, well said.
It's a good point. Yeah, that's a really good point. I can just imagine if I was a crew member, and I'm getting beat up on my rate and I'm looking around and seeing all the money being thrown at other things like, wait a minute, when do I get mine? So Matthew, you want to jump back in?
Yeah, well, I think that the opportunity for training is there for training younger people, because there's like tons of graduates and that are not at standard. But then there's the challenges of training online, which is also something that I'm working with at the moment. And then on top of that, there's also the opportunity to look remotely in different countries. Like Australia's got a pretty good pool and of workers. We are busy, but you know, I think looking outside your city and looking at the time zones, because half the people here are working remotely because we've had very long shutdowns. I would say in Melbourne and Sydney, it would be 70% working remotely, at least. Still.
Yeah, but from our Australian clients, it also seems like Australia is having a major resource issue too, because the feature films are coming there and therefore scooping up teams really fast, and the competitive money is seeing itself there too. That this supply chain thing is real. It's international, right? It's not just happening in a local area where I feel like LA had a crunch of 2 years ago, 3 years ago, but wasn't seen in all markets. This going back to the idea that it's all kind of synchronized within a certain time frame, a very short time frame with everyone. It's very interesting. But I do like the idea, Matt, about the thought of making your own resource. It's the reason why we started the producer masterclass a month and a half ago that we finally launched, is this thought of like, there weren't enough producers. Well, maybe there are skills that you can teach others and they can gain it and step into that role. I think as business owners and leaders, there's an opportunity to find resources that you can invest in and get some long-term play, or find unique resources that weren't readily available previously.
Yeah, I was going to see if I could possibly persuade my my former business partner Steve to jump in here. Steve, are you with us still?
I am, yes.
Hey, mister. So
Hey.
The reason I'm kind of curious for your perspective is you're more on the buyer side, right? Like you would say that, hey, I work at a big Fortune 100 company and I engage studios, production companies, but I'm sure it's freelancers and crew and so forth.
Yeah.
I'm just sort of curious from your perspective, is this problem part of your daily reality now?
It's coming. Yes, I can feel it. Not only kind of from I'm feeling it in two ways coming. It's kind of like, okay, I'm ready to staff up, and not internally, but also expanding our resource pool. But you said something earlier, Joel, that really did pique my interest, and that was, you said somebody had established a resource pool long ago, and that is certainly what I did, because I outsource so much stuff. I mean, almost everything. And I only have 2 staff people, and right now, but I'm also ready to start hiring some. But at the same time, I'm always constantly expanding that freelance pool. So, but I am starting to see, it's like, oh, sorry, I'm not available. Oh,
Right.
Joel. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Yeah, and Joel, there's also a totally different opportunity that's happening in this moment. I've been helping a few companies go through an acquisition process of being acquired and buying and selling businesses, and the rate at which companies are being acquired right now, and the certain ROI that they're getting. The question often comes down to, how strong is your team? What is your retention rate, and will they stay with you?
Yeah.
And if you can answer yes to that, you're getting higher multipliers or multiples of your business than you have ever done before, and cash sooner than ever before. So some opportunities for some business owners might be, this is a time to be acquired and convert your team into a larger team. You might want to recognize you don't want to play this game or keep up with this, but you have an asset that you can leverage and great relationships you can leverage into making someone else successful and be acquired. Like there's these tensions, this tension point, as it pushes itself out, has all these other actors that start coming out, and therefore different opportunities. As a business owner, we have to be understanding and considerate of all those opportunities and ask the questions, what is the opportunity that's best fitting for each one of us, so that you can take advantage of the market for yourself as others are taking advantage of the market for themselves.
Yeah, that makes me think as we go through this conversation, like we talked obviously about COVID and back to work and all that off and on for a year and a half. I think this might be something we talk about off and on for the next, hopefully not year and a half. But I was thinking how it would be cool to bring in some of those outliers that you described, Tim, like the people who answered yes to that question. Like we have high retention, we have a really strong culture, right? That there's not a high attrition rate. It'd be cool to have a few of those people speak to us to just help us understand, what do you attribute that high retention to? Because there's one problem called, how do I find and get new talent? But there's the other problem, just how do I keep the talent I've got?
Yeah. Yeah, I just was helping somebody do annual raises. And it was so interesting, that group, because the business owner was truly more generous than the employees thought she had to be. And that situation is so interesting because the employees are basically saying, I'm fulfilled. This is the career I want to have. This is the place I want to live it out. So, money isn't everything. And they didn't give it back necessarily, but they weren't in high demand and asking for more and more just cash or whatever, just really looking for the opportunities and happy to be working at that company. So that kind of a culture can play itself out and give you a lot of reward, give you a lot of security, and give you that strength you need to navigate some of these trying times.
Well, make a mental bookmark, because we should probably have that owner come in and share what's behind that.
Yeah, well, I could tell you specifically, that company cares about the careers of its employees, not just the work that they're doing. So there's an overall thought of constantly graduating people and giving them their moment and the credit and passing it on. So this is like a graduation process. It's brilliant. It's a very thoughtful, considerate community that they're building.
Hey, Tim, this is
Yeah.
Steve, and I'm gonna totally second that. I'm seeing that what you just said from the corporate side, from our business side, and also your point about acquiring studios. That's also very much on the radar, and is probably a good opportunity for independent shops to kind of be thinking about that. Well, gee, if I, there's that certainly is a very viable option.
Yeah, might be the one moment in your opportunity as a business owner, one time in a 20-year cycle, that this was a moment you should take advantage of. So you should, that's something you're interested of and putting out there. There is a marketplace that's being built up and sold that way too. It's curious how attention in one area creates opportunity in another.
Yep.
And we have to keep our eyes open, put our head in the sand, and see and ask new questions, not be afraid of where those paths might lead.
Yeah, it's not until this moment, Steve, it occurred to me that yes, if I was a big corporate concern and I was looking to build an internal agency in this climate right now, man, I would be way more interested in who can I just go acquire and get those 10 or 20 amazing, brilliant people in one fell swoop, rather than build this thing piecemeal over the next couple of years.
Something I know that you and I have talked about briefly, and it absolutely would solve a multitude of problems all at once.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So guys, I just got a quick question. Usually you're flat out and you don't have time to actually look for people. It's the last, where you need to do it at the last minute. What do you reckon the best way is go about actually finding people you don't know of, you don't have on your list?
That's a good question, Matt, because so if I were to put this in one of our ingredients, we often think of resource management in the production ingredients, the producer's job to find somebody. But you're right, when you put that work and that ingredient and put on the production team, it's usually more impulsive. It's a specific match for a specific need at a specific time. If you take that same problem and move it to operations, and then you do what we do with everything, systems and routines, you really can make a very common and everyday pattern, once a week pattern of understanding where people are, what their availabilities are, what their rates currently are, what their skill level is, and be able to reach out to more and more new people. And then you just have to capture that data in a form. Usually it involves grading and rate and some time tracking or whatever to know just where those resources are. But there's a couple of studios in Los Angeles that have a specific person, a recruiter, and have that practice as a constant for them, and should just really know where the 30 people, 40 people that company needs at all time, So when the producer needs it, they go to an internal source and say, here's what I need. And then that person understands the landscape and could put the team together with them. So it is an operational thing you can adopt inside your company. I even had one group that just used Pipedrive, which is often a sales tool, but they just put people's names like job leads into their Pipedrive to track where they are and use those column-based things in the sales platform to just understand the status of their talent. So very often just put it into a routine, a couple hours a week, somebody, maybe a full-time person if you're big enough, and some way to track it, and you'll accomplish a lot of that.
So Tim, I'm going to jump in because we are 2 minutes past our allotment. It's a great question, Matthew, because I think it deserves further unpacking. And Tim, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was like, viewing recruiting and retention as not a production item, but as an operations item. It's the magic of systems and routines. And I think we can unpack that in future conversations about this. Well, let me just sign us off and say thank you for everyone for being here. I think we're obviously hitting a nerve here, right? This is something we got to keep talking about. So Tim, I think in terms of next steps, we should invite people to start threads in the community if you want to process it with other people and get conversations going. And then at some point, there might be an opportunity for us to do a roundtable and get some consensus around the problem, strategies to move us forward, long-term solutions, and so forth.
Yeah, it sounds great. I think this is one of those ideas where when the community comes together, there's a better dialogue, more clarity of what the issues are, and possibly a better solution. So this is one of those burdens you want to share with one another. So feel free to use our platform. And of course, we exist so that you can thrive in business, life, and career. So put yourself out there and be part of this overall culture that's solving this problem. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, because a rising tide is going to lift all of these boats together. So that's what we're going to do. All right, thanks again, everyone. I appreciate you coming to the weekly briefing. Tim, thanks for being here. For everyone else who contributed, we'll see you next week. Until then, see you in the community. Bye, everyone.
See you.